Trials and Submission today on the Midweek Move. Hello and welcome to the Midweek Move, podcast extension of the Healing Places, the podcast where we examine the scriptures line by line, verse by verse, and ask ourselves, what is happening here? And today, ladies and gentlemen, is Carlos Renfro joining me as we continue the journey through the book of Mark.
The book of Mark.
Brother, this is getting heavy. Last week's episode, I thought it was kind of cool. We did communion here together.
Yeah, I thought that was really, really special. If you guys haven't seen that episode, it's the one before this one. Go check it out. It's really good.
It was a neat opportunity. We got to hear the voice of our engineer also in the background. He helped bless the cup, and I think it was really cool with the reflection of what took place and then be able to do it in real time together.
Yeah,
I think it added depth to
a
it.
way to really connect yourself with what really happened in the scripture, and that's so important.
Yeah.
If the scriptures aren't something that you can connect with personally, then you're missing out. It just has to be more than a storybook to you. It has to be something that what comes out of the pages or the screen, the scripture, gets into your real life, and that's when stuff really starts to change.
Exactly, and of course that takes intentionality. There's some people like, well, I just don't get anything out of it. Well, there's a level of intentionality of us going, let's look at it. I forgot who it was. There was a guy who wrote a book about prayer, reading the Bible and everything like that, and he challenged people to experience the scriptures using the five senses. Yeah, which is a weird thing to say because we're reading papers. So we're like, okay, I'm reading it. So he invites people basically to use their imagination to figure out, what does it sound like? What is the feeling in the room and everything like that? And when you're intentional about that with responsible restraint, because some people get weird about it, it does come alive.
Yeah, immersive.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, this is going to be a time frame that's going to be, we can be immersive with it, but it's going to be real depressing at the same time because we were talking off camera. We are slowly progressing to the death, but the glorious resurrection of Jesus. And so it's going to be heavy for the next few weeks.
Got to deal with it sometime, folks. Exactly.
But within the heavy, there's always going to be hope in some fashion.
Yes, that's the way God works.
Let's dive into it, starting in verse 26 of Mark chapter 14.
Verse 26, and when they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives.
All right, so this picks up immediately after Jesus and his disciples take the bread and wine, whereas John proceeds with a very lengthy discourse. John had a lot to say, but again, John was there.
Yeah, he was there physically.
Yeah, Mark is, again, recording the writings of Peter, but Mark takes us straight to the Mount of Olives. This was not a surprising thing for the disciples to do, most likely. Each night, they would venture from Jerusalem back to Bethany, where they were staying. But this night was a bit different in that they stopped to pray. Obviously, they're coming on the back end of having this really weird dinner with, probably the most intense, awkward Passover meal ever.
Right, everybody's pointing fingers and wondering, is it me, Lord?
Right. And then all of a sudden, Judas gets up and leaves, and Jesus is like, and we know from John's description, Jesus goes, go and do what you're going to do, Judas. Which I need to go back and read that passage again because I'm wondering, when he said that, was there enough context for the disciples to go, Judas? Or not?
Where is he going?
I need to go back and read that now.
Yeah.
And so, but this is a heavy night.
Yeah.
It's probably really late, like super, super late for them as they journey back to Bethany. The garden of, we'll say it's called a garden of Gethsemane. How does Pastor say it? Gethsemane. And, but it's actually in an olive grove itself. And so I want to encourage you guys, like your picture, like it's late night, they're walking through and there's like a grove of olive trees that they're walking through. And I want to point this out here. When it says hymn, they weren't singing How Great Art Thou. There wasn't a hymnal with page, with song number 36 on it. Right. That your dear, Aunt Martha sang back in the Depression era.
Common meter.
This was actually the book of Psalms.
Yes.
And at one point in time, I knew what it probably was. There's a traditional hymn that you would sing, or some you would sing in the Passover meal. I can't remember what it was now. But that's what they were singing. They were singing the scriptures. And so here they are. They're journeying out, and they stop to pray. So let's continue on 27 through 29, Carlos.
27, and Jesus said to them, you will all fall away, for it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep will be scattered. But after I am raised up, I will go before you to Galilee. Peter said to him, even though they all fall away, I will not.
All right. So, Peter.
Good old Peter.
So Jesus now brings another prophetic word to his disciples, which is, once again, very heavy about what's going on. This time, he points them back to the Old Testament passage of Zechariah chapter 13, verse 7. Now, it should be noted that in the context of the reference verse, God is calling for the shepherd to be struck, a shepherd that he calls my shepherd. Yeah. And this is a messianic thing, and we'll get into it later. But I want to ask you this first question here. The disciples, again, they just heard Jesus say that one of them was going to flat out betray them, and now they're hearing Jesus say that they're going to scatter after he dies. If we could put ourselves in the head of the disciples for a moment, and again, this is that immersive thing. It's late, they're tired, they're walking through the garden. They got all this in the back of their head, and they hear Jesus say this. And again, we take into account Peter's words, not me. What do we suppose is the feeling and the thinking of the disciples right now as they walk through this together?
Well, it's obvious what Peter felt, right?
Yeah.
we don't have recording of anybody else's response to what Jesus was saying, but here's Peter. His first posture is to get defensive.
Right.
They're like, I don't know what the rest of these chumps are going to do, but I'm here for you, Lord. I'm not getting. And you got to kind of feel like, with the whole Judas thing, by this time Judas isn't with him. He's gone off to do what he's been prophesied to do, and now they're going through. Man, we're like one person. He's already told us that somebody's going to betray him. Now he's telling us all of us are going to abandon him.
Right.
And you spent 3.5 years with this guy building ministry. You were there where the book of John said that they picked up stones to try to stone him.
Right.
After he said, before Abraham was, I am. You were there doing all these miracles. You were there when he walked on the sea. You were there casting out demons. Now he's telling you that you guys have spent this time with me. You're going to fail the test. I can imagine this how. That's got to be a pit of your stomach. Once again, like we said before, when Jesus said this stuff, he's never been wrong, and that he's never been wrong if you walk with him. That's got to be a very troubling feeling to feel like I spent my time and I dedicated. These guys left things to do this. Yeah, and now the rubber's meeting the road, and Jesus is saying, you know what, you guys are gonna abandon me. But the good thing is that he wraps that up with a bit of hope. Yeah. That it's cool, but when I'm raised up, I'm gonna go before you to Galilee. Yeah. So I know this is gonna go wrong, but I got a plan. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a mixed bag of emotions here taking place. And I want to invite you guys to kind of just think that process too. You're in the garden and here, like you said, 3 years ministry. And all of a sudden it's like, one is going to betray me. The rest of y'all are just going to run away. Now, I got to get Peter's defensiveness. Peter's always been kind of the edgy guy. Yeah. He's like, call me on the water, Jesus. And he's like, oh, I'm sinking.
he's the mouthpiece of the group.
Right. But there's that whole we've been through this. How dare you say it? He almost feels like he's offended by what he's saying here, which is crazy. So here's my next question for you. Again, Jesus' reference to Zechariah implies that God is sovereignly in control of both Jesus' death and resurrection. What kind of comfort could the original hearers who were going through persecution take from this, and what can we glean from it today?
Well, that's always a good thing. First of all, that God already knew because he had Zechariah say it. Right. So God already knew that Jesus was going to go through this. And when you have the ability to contextualize your troubles, you have the ability to contextualize trial and difficulty and understand that even those things fall within the framework of the plan of God, then you know that God is a good God and that he's a God of breakthrough, that he's a God of victories. Right. And that when we follow his will, things aren't promised to be perfect, but they are promised that we will get through them and that they will come out toward his glory and toward our good. Right. And so there's the ability, the most significant trial in the history of human suffering is the crucifixion of our Lord, and that even that was in the framework of the plan of God, and God brought him through that even to a glorious resurrection. Right. So that does give us hope, and that does instill in us that God is in control, but not just in control No, that just leads to suffering, but then control toward a good end.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I forgot what the exact verse is, but the Bible does say that God works all things out to our good and to His glory.
Yep.
And I think that's an important.
Romans 8:28.
There you go. That's one thing I want to encourage you guys listening right now is like there is a deception in the world that when you're out there that if you're a Christian, everything should be sunshine and rainbows and everything should be happy and good.
Yeah, that's not true.
It's just not. We still live in a fallen world. Life happens, and again, not that God makes things happen, but He knows things are where He knows that things are happening, but He will work those things out when we are faithful.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key aspect of it is when we are faithful, we see those things take place. And later in this passage, we're going to see that aspect of faithfulness take place here. But I want to keep that in mind for you guys listening. Like, I know it's rough for some of you guys right now.
Yeah.
But have hope. God is in control. Put your trust in Him, and He's going to take care of you in the end. All right, let's keep going. 30 through 31.
30 and 31. Verse 30. And Jesus said to him, truly, I tell you, this very night before the rooster crows twice, you will deny me 3 times. But He said emphatically, if I must die with you, I will not deny you. And they all, following Peter, and they all said the same.
So after hearing Peter's brave declaration, I think I missed something. Oh, yeah, Jesus presents even more detailed prophetic word about Peter's denial. And again, Peter's like, no, not me. Like, he was openly disputing Jesus' warning here.
I don't care how divine you are. Not I, Lord. I don't care if you've been here since before there was time. Not me.
Right? And again, there is something to the good intentions of it. Again, and it bolsters the rest of the guys. Like, yeah, no, not us. We're sticking it out.
I mean, Peter's literally trying to be a ride or die.
Right,
like,
exactly.
Trying to be a ride or die.
But we also know, unfortunately, that later he does, in fact, end up denying Jesus. We see this take place. Mm-hmm. And again, we're getting ahead of the story here, but if we could, for a moment, jump ahead. How can we encourage others who have failed and help them to move past those points of failure? Again, he was warned you're going to fail, and he does, even though he didn't like it. A lot of people, how do I put this? There's zeal and passion.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when they hit failure point, the zeal and passion turns to condemnation.
Yeah.
It's like, how could I have done this? I was so passionate about it. Now, this is part of what, going back to our conversation earlier about, I have people that I'm heartbroken about who have just walked away from the Lord. Some of it is that they had so much zeal and passion, and then when they didn't see things work out the way they thought, there is condemnation, there's fear, and then there's this voice coming in, well, you were so passionate about that, God can no longer forgive you because you were
or was it real to begin with?
Exactly. How do we walk people through this?
You know, I believe it was Luke. I want to say it was Luke chapter 10, and Jesus commissions the 70, and He sends them out to go into different villages, different towns and locales to preach the gospel, and He gives them all this authority, all this power to heal the sick and to cast out demons and stuff. And they come back to Him, and they're super excited. Mm-hmm. They're super excited. They're like, you know what, Lord, we went out there, and even the demons are subject to us in your name. And Jesus kind of brings the fervor down and almost semi-rebukes them for that. Yeah. And He was like, don't rejoice in those things, but rejoice that your names are written in heaven. And what I believe He was trying to do is that we get so enamored with the victory. We get so enamored with the feeling, with the zeal, and with the passion. And you go out there and you just have the spiritual world by its tail. And there's going to come a time, you're going to go out there and that's not going to happen. Yeah. So what are you going to do then? Yeah. So your focus and your mentality needs to be on the eternal. Yeah. So He's like, your names are written in heaven. That's what counts. Not these things are good. They're good. But your focus needs to be on finishing the race. Right. Your focus needs to be on what's eternal. Right. Because there's grace in between for all that other stuff too. Yeah. And so here, Peter's going to come up against it. Mm-hmm. The spiritual highs are going to turn to big time spiritual lows. Right. And he's going to need to understand not just the power of God, but he's going to need to understand the compassion and the grace and the forgiveness of God. And Jesus kind of preempts him and lets him know this stuff ain't going to go the way you think it's going to go, but I've got a plan for all of that, and I'm going to wrap that up. Right. And so I encourage people to understand that when you fail, God already knows. Yeah. He's already seen it.
Mm-hmm.
He has provision for you and grace for you and a place for you. And it comes to forgiveness, restoration, and the ability to continue to do what he's called you to. When he called you to do what he called you to do, he already knew your failures.
Right.
And he called you to do it anyway.
Exactly.
So just know that there's a pathway. Even in failure, there's a pathway, there's a hand, there's a shepherd that's going to pick you up and put you back on the path where you need to be.
Exactly.
That God's grace is sufficient even for that.
Right. Absolutely. 100%. Good stuff. All right, let's keep tracking along. Verse 32 through 34.
32 through 34, scrolling up. And he went to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." And he took with him Peter, James, and John, and began to be greatly distressed and troubled. Man, that's an understatement.
Right.
And he said to them, "My soul is very sorrowful, even unto death. Remain here and watch."
Okay, so Jesus leads the disciples to now the garden area of the Mountain of Olives. He leaves one group behind and brings his inner circle. And we've talked about this before. This is kind of these guys were there for the Transfiguration. These are Jesus' closest friends amongst the 12. His words, though, remain here and watch. They're interesting. That's being said here, because some believe Jesus meant for them to be watchful in prayer over his heartache that he's carrying. He's asking them, "Hey, I need you guys to pray over this.
Right.
Be intentional about it." Others have suggested that since John's gospel notes that Judas knew exactly where Jesus' disciples could possibly be, because this was a place that they would often go to, that Jesus was warning his disciples to be on the lookout for trouble at the same time. So there's several things taking place in this moment.
Right.
And again, we know that he's burdened. His heart is, as it says, "My soul is very sorrowful."
Right.
He's carrying immense pressure and anxiety at this moment.
Literally, the shadow of death is just kind of looming over this company situation.
Right. So let me ask you this: why didn't Jesus share this burden with the entire group? And what can we learn from his example here, where he brings just the few with him?
Right. Well, you got to know that even in the spiritual walk, all things aren't for all people. And he knew who, even though they were getting ready to fail to some extent in some source, he had to know who's spiritually mature enough to be able to handle and share those certain things with him. You know, well, the guys may not have been ready, may not have been their spot, may not have been their opportunity, may not have been the timing for what God. Maybe certain things, exposing certain things to certain people might mess them up.
Yeah,
you know, they may not be there for that, and that's a mark of a quality cultivated relationship and quality time spent as a leader is knowing where the people around you are and knowing what fits into their walk at what time.
Right.
Because we want to help people walk through things, but we want to protect them for things that they're not ready for.
Yeah.
And those three were probably, I mean, the Lord knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
Were the ones that could deal with it.
Exactly.
Even if they failed, they were ones that are most capable of succeeding at that time.
Right. It's one of those things where, like I said, you just got to know where people are and what they can and can't handle. And the role of anybody in leadership, good leadership, is to want to set people up, not just for a win, but to make sure that they're carrying what they can carry and don't give them too much. You know, we're doing that in real time all the time here, where, you know, there may be some stuff that we're having to handle. We're going to bring in certain people to, you know, have certain information to be able to carry out tasks. But then there's some people that were like, "Hey, this is a situation going on." I remember years ago we had a situation when I was in the kids pastor, and there was some stuff that was going on with the family, and pastor pulled me aside and goes, "You need to know X, Y, Z." I said, "All right, cool, bet." Well, then I had to go to my team and go, "Okay, look, this situation here, I need you to handle these things here." I didn't give them the full thing because they didn't need to know.
Right.
They needed to be looking at,
compartmentalize that. So
they need to look at certain people and go, "Oh, this is what's happening." They just need to know that a couple kids need some extra love today.
Here's my responsibility.
Exactly. And even then, I didn't find out the information until years later that there was stuff that I just wasn't told. But it's because I didn't need to know. Right. Pastor knew my job was this arena. Right. And for me to do my best job, I just need to know this is my task and not worry about other things.
Right. And Yeah, and just think about it from a leadership and discipleship standpoint. They're getting ready to, they don't know this yet, but they're getting ready to embark on a worldwide movement. They're getting ready to bring people in. Judas isn't going to be with us anymore. They don't know they don't know that his exit is permanent,
Right.
and they got to bring in other people,
Right.
and they got to make decisions. They got to be able to be ready to deal with persecution. And this model of being selective in what they do and who they do it with. You go to the book of Acts and you see that play out over and over again.
Yeah.
Even the guy who penned this, there was some contention about him being ready at a certain point in time between Paul and Barnabas.
Yeah.
You know, and you gotta kind of understand, you know, that's a model of being able to know sincerely what timing is right for what people in a spiritual season.
Exactly. And with that mindset, you have to learn to trust your leadership and what they're doing.
Yeah.
There's some people like, well, I need to know. I have the right to know. Just because you have the right to know something doesn't mean it's the best thing for you. And this is where we have to learn to trust leadership. Leadership needs to be trustworthy.
Yep. It needs to be accountable and trustworthy.
Needs to hold things up. There are things that I just don't need to know that's happening. And I'm glad that you and the board do, and Pastor knows, you know, and you know, there was and Pastor, he teases me a little bit. We're handling some different stuff, and my office is right next to his office, so there's those things I have to know because I'm right next to him, and he knows I'm going to hear some stuff, and he'll come and goes, "You sure don't want my job?" No, I really don't. I do not want that responsibility. Bless you.
You got it, brother.
Thank you for your ministry, Pastor.
You got it, brother.
Thank you for your anointing. So anyways, but that's the balance of it all, is you have to trust your leadership, but leadership has to be willing to do what they need to do right. Yeah. Good stuff. All right, let's keep going. 37 through 38.
35, 36.
Oh, yeah, my bad. Scroll down too far.
And it's very easy to do. 35 and 36. Make sure I know where I'm stopping. And going a little farther, he fell on the ground and prayed after that. If it were possible, the hour might pass for him. He said, Abba, Father, all these things are possible for you. Remove this cup from me. Yeah, yet not I will, but what you will.
Man. This portion, it hits me every time I see it. Jesus goes off to pray privately. And Mark gives us a glimpse at the agony Jesus is going through. Other writers, they put in the detail that he's sweating blood, which is a medical condition that takes place when you're under extreme duress, extreme anxiety and stress taking place. And here's Jesus doing that, falling to his knees, and he calls out Abba, Father. And this is interesting. I didn't realize this until I read into it later. Abba means father. It's an Arabic word. Jews would never have used that for God, calling out to God.
Right, yeah.
Because it would have been disrespectful.
Yes.
It wouldn't have been something that they call him Adonai, all kinds of other things.
Yeah.
But never Abba. Here in this moment, we're seeing more scriptural proof of Jesus showing his relationship to God as the Father.
His divinity, yeah.
Exactly. So this is an intimate moment here. But his words here specifically are powerful. It's fun here. Remove this cup being what's about to take place, from me, yet not what I will, but what you will. Saying, I don't want this. I don't want to suffer what I'm about to suffer.
Right.
He knows prophetically and just realistically what's about to take place. In his lifetime, he would have seen hundreds of men crucified because that's what they did back then, and they were hung up for warning purposes.
Yeah, public display.
And he's like, this is a lot, but I'm willing to do this hard thing. Because he's saying that I don't want it, but if it's what you want from me, Lord, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this hard thing. So my question for you is, how can we develop the discipline and the faith to submit to the hard things God gives us?
I'm trying to imagine being there in the mind of somebody that knows. You know, I go through stuff. We all go through stuff.
Yeah,
and it's not comfortable. It's something. There's a lot of times where, God, I don't want to walk through it. Can you just reach out and pull me out of it? You know, here's Jesus knowing that he's getting ready to go to a gruesome death, to the death of a cross, a public spectacle, and he's not going there in a justified manner because it's not over anything that he's done wrong.
Right.
And him knowing the pain, the agony, and the separation of the Father, separation with the Father because of sin, but just a willfulness to say, you know what, I'll put that all aside and I'll submit to that so that your will can be done, Father. Mm. And if that doesn't put into context what I go through, I don't know what does.
Yeah.
If Jesus can go through what he went through so that I can have the opportunity to follow the will of God, you know, that brings all of, I think the first part and the easiest part, the outside is just the basic of cultivating a relationship with God and knowing that he's trustworthy and that he's good, is, man, look at Jesus.
Yeah.
Look at what he did. Look at his perfect obedience to the Father. Mm-hmm. Look at his perfect submission to the absolute most difficult part of the will of God, mm-hmm. and his willingness to do it, not because it was going to be easy for him, knowing it was going to be hard for him, but what comes on the other side is things that the Father had foreordained before the beginning of time. Mm-hmm. That I do this, and God's plan gets accomplished, and that's what I care about more than anything, more than my safety, more than my comfort. Yeah. I care about the plan of God, and we have to examine ourselves and say, how much do I care about the plan of God? Yeah. When things are hard, when things are tough, when I don't feel like it, when I'm unsure, mm-hmm. you know, when I can't see, when people abandon me, mm-hmm. you know, how much do I care about the plan and the will of God that I'd be willing to follow the lead of Christ, yeah, and submit myself to his plan.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I want to add another aspect to it. Last week, I asked you about how can we develop a heart that is willing to be uncomfortable for the sake of helping mm-hmm. people to the kingdom. And you brought up a great point about the aspect of looking at presenting the gospel. These are life and death situations. Yeah. And that kind of leans into this whole thing of when we have our forefront of mind, this is a life or death situation, yeah. spiritually, mm-hmm. being faithful to the Lord till the end. That is a life and death situation spiritually. Not just for us. I think that's key. Some people look at it, it's like, well, it's just for, it's just my thing. Yeah. But our actions even point other people elsewhere. It influences other people's stuff.
It's a spiritual ripple effect.
It helps us to go, this is difficult, but I'm going to do it. I think about, I know a situation with a family where, man, they were going through some terrible, terrible things. And the mother was basically left to do her own thing. And she had to get stuff done. And she was asked, how were you able to do this? How were you able to do these hard things? And she goes, I did the hard things because I knew my children needed me to do it. Yeah. They needed me to be mom and to provide. So I did some very, very hard things for their sake. When we realize that these hard things God is asking for us, they're not just arbitrary hard things. No. There's a purpose.
Yeah. There's something behind it.
We may not understand the full purpose behind it. We don't know what that's going to look like on the back end, but we have to trust there is purpose and walk through it, even when it seems senseless. Yeah. There's always a purpose on the back end of things. Yeah. So, all right, 37 through 38.
37 to 38. And he came and found them sleeping. And he said to Peter, Simon, are you asleep? Could you not watch 1 hour? And I pray that you may watch and pray that you may not enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak.
All right. So after this intense time of prayer that Jesus just had, and I got to imagine what it's like seeing Jesus walk up and, there's obvious like blood stains dripping from his forehead.
Right.
And but he walks up and he finds them asleep, all three of his best friends. And so he goes to them and they're asleep. And his words to them, though, are watch and pray. And the way that those are written, it's a plurality, meaning he's telling all of them, all three of them, y'all need to stay awake. Y'all need to be watching in prayer. And I say that some people have taken this to go, oh, it was all on Peter. And it wasn't. It was all of them. But some have suggested that he calls out Peter explicitly here, though, because of his own prideful words. He's like, hey, Peter.
Hey, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Well, look who's asleep now.
Yeah. He's like, so if, again, we have a recording of it, but I can't help if it was me, I'd be like, oh, Mr. I'm not doing nothing here.
Right.
But we'll ask something. How do being watchful and being prayerful help us to avoid temptation, which is what Jesus is warning him of here.
You know what? Before I get to that, what really struck me is that here's Jesus in his hour of distress and his hour of him wrestling with his humanity, as opposed to it wanting to flee from the divine purpose of God. You know, and here he is contending with great drops of blood, or sweating blood, and all of this agony and the potential of separation from the Father. Comes and finds his aces asleep. His number one, the one that he can trust the absolute most on planet Earth. I don't know how many people on Earth there were on Earth at that time, but those were the three people that God chose that he could trust the most at this time, and they were all asleep. And his response to them was for their good.
Yeah. Oh man.
He was worried about their flesh and their spirit and them not entering into temptation.
Yeah.
He took that, even what he would have been justified in being already. This is like the pre-abandonment to abandonment.
Right.
This is like the prelude to abandonment.
Right.
This is like them trying on abandonment for size. He could have very easily had been offended and had the right to be offended, but his response to them was for their spiritual good.
Yeah.
And like you said, how can being watchful, being prayerful, avoid temptation? Why do you think Jesus was there?
Yeah.
He was there to get some sort of resource from the Father so he can go and do what he needed to do.
Exactly.
Being prayerful, being watchful, being vigilant, as Peter tells us to do, because we have an enemy out there, gives us a sense of tools from the Father to be able to stay away from temptation, to stay strong, and to gain resources in order to press through what God had. That's what Jesus was there for. Jesus picked the spot. He knew where he needed to be. He knew that he needed to get with the Father in order to do what he needed to do.
Right.
And those are tools. That's what that tool is there for.
Absolutely. Good stuff. All right. Verse 39 through 42, and we'll wrap it up for today.
39, 42. And again, he went away and prayed, saying the same words. He came and found them sleeping. They didn't learn a thing.
Nope.
For their eyes were heavy, and they did not know what to answer him. And he came a third time and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? It is enough. The hour has come. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinner. Rise, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand."
So Jesus returns to his disciples twice more, and twice more.
More times.
They were asleep. And apparently the second time they were so ashamed by their actions, they didn't even know what to say. It's Jesus wakes up. He's like, "What are you doing?" They're all like, "Well,
Lord, this thousands of years before Red Bull, Lord." So.
And it was late at night, all these other things. But he's challenging them here in this moment here. So, and he informs them that the time for sleep has come to an end because his betrayal is about to happen.
Yep.
So, question for you: what encouragement could the early church going through persecution take from this?
No, I think there's a little bit of a dichotomy there when you're looking at the text here. That the church could see, they can see the weakness of natural men, and they can see the absolute strength and the perseverance of God, who's in control of all of it. Here you have the disciples, man. They're just like us. I mean, you got to know that in the ears or the eyes of the writing of the people that are looking at this gospel that's penned by Mark, and basically the account told by Peter, they got to look at these 12 or these 11 as just heroes in the pantheons of faith and what they go through.
Yeah,
you imagine being that close within a generation of the disciples, of the people that walk with Jesus, and how you would feel about them. How you would feel about their walk and their faith. And here are the people that have carved out what it is that you're walking in the early church. And you get to see that they were just as weak as you were.
Yeah.
That they had just as much trouble staying spiritually and naturally vigilant as you have.
Yep.
But Jesus is like, you know what, we got this under control. Here it comes. Let's do what we got to do.
Yeah.
And that's got to put into context that if these men walked alongside the Lord physically, I'm trying to do it spiritually, that they had troubles, but the Lord got them through it. I'm in the same boat. He's going to take care of me too.
Exactly. I'm glad you brought up the fact that dichotomy, like we in our modern day eyes, we read them, these guys as they're the superheroes of faith and perfect and everything like that. Again, they're falling asleep on the job here.
Yeah, they are.
And even jump forward, there's there are still failure moments.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Peter had a knockdown drag out with Paul over whether or not Gentiles could truly be Christians.
Yep.
And it is one of those things that when we read this, we need to remember these guys are human.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I draw comfort from is going, man, there's grace.
Yeah, there is.
And I think, again, that's going back to the conversation about people who just kind of walk away from things. Either like what you brought up, which was a great point, they feel like when they fail, like, was it even real? But then there's this combination of going, I've done too much, I can't do any more. And no, there's grace.
Yeah. The Bible is full of it.
There's so much restoration. There's so much hope. And it's a matter of you being truly repentive and leaning into it.
Yeah.
So, well, that's what we got for you guys today. Join us next week as we talk about the betrayal of Jesus as a whole. And I want to encourage you guys, reach out to us. Let us know how we can pray with you, how we can encourage you. MediaHub@thpeachreport.com is how you can email us. And again, don't forget, guys, it's a real life church here at the Healing Place with real people. We're not AI.
No.
So our sermons aren't written by AI.
Nope.
So come hang out with us. 8957 Kingston Road here in Shreveport, Louisiana. Zip code 71106. We have gatherings every Wednesday at 6:30. And if you are watching this the day it comes out, we're having a meal tonight.
Yeah.
Fellowship.
Come prove to yourself that we're not AI.
Hey, there you go. Come break bread with us. And then every Sunday morning at 10 o'clock. Until next time, have a great week.